is to live, breathe, and love these stick figure handouts that you guys have. The reason for it is because, and one of your objectives for this class is that you'll be able to trace the flow of blood from a paw to all the way to the heart, or from the heart, from the heart all the way to a paw, or from the paw all the way to the heart, okay? So venous circulation would be from the paw all the way to the heart, and arterial circulation would be from the heart all the way to the paw. So make sure that you know, orient your cats, your pictures with these stick figures. They will definitely help you study, believe me, okay? And this is how I remember vessels in the heart too, so just letting you guys know. Okay, this being said, let's start. So we'll start with the with the lower part. So, okay, so you have, let's see, do you guys see that vein right there? Blue, or more clearly this one. What's that? Those are up there. This is the inferior vena cava coming off of the heart, okay? So coming off of the heart, it goes straight down, and there are branchings, right? So when the inferior vena cava is coming straight from the heart and going down, the first branching that you guys will see would be the adrenal lumbars. In this case, let's see if it has one. Yeah, this one is actually a better one for this. So, do you guys see that branching right there? That is your adrenal lumbar. It's going to the adrenal gland, which is right on top of the kidneys, normally. So, this first branching of the vena cava would be inferior vena cava, would be your adrenal lumbar vein. You can also see the adrenal lumbar artery going there, but I don't think you have to identify that one. So don't worry about the artery. Need to know this is the adrenal lumbar vein. What is this? It's actually a vein and an artery mixed together. You can see the pink right there. It's going to what? The kidney. Right. Renal. Renal.
Okay.
So this is the renal vein and the renal artery right here. Okay? Let's come back to this one. Ow, that's sharp. So first branching, adrenal lumbar. Second branching is going to be your renals. Now, we get to this bifurcation right here where it branches off. The first branching right here of the vein, it's going to be your common iliac, okay? So the inferior vena cava comes down, and the first time it's going to branch, that branch is going to be the common iliac. If you follow the common iliac all the way down, you can see a branching off right there. Do you guys see that? Okay, when the common iliac is branching off right there, that means it's branching off towards the internal iliac. So this is going to be your internal iliac vein. Common iliac branches off internally into the internal iliac. Now, after the internal iliac, this part right here is going to be your external iliac. So I know it's confusing, but common, internal, external iliac. After the external iliac, so if your pin is way out in the boonies right here, that's going to be your femoral vein. So the the veins of your legs or lower limbs after branching off from the inferior vena cava is going to be common iliac, internal iliac, external iliac, femoral. Okay? Those are the veins. Now, arteries. What is this? It's the aorta, and it's actually the abdominal aorta. There is a distinction between the abdominal aorta and the thoracic aorta. Make sure you know that. And the distinction is this. What's that? The diaphragm. If the aorta is underneath, below the diaphragm, it's crossed over into the abdominal cavity. It's the abdominal aorta. If the aorta is still, you can see it. It's very hard to see this one, but you can see it right there. If the aorta is above the diaphragm, it's the thoracic aorta. Okay? So, let's follow the aorta down. Okay. Okay, so this is the path of the aorta, and the first branching of the aorta is going to be your, this is not a very clear one. Let's take a look at this. Yep, this one's better. Okay, so this is your aorta coming down, and the first branching off of it is going to be your celiac trunk. Okay? Right underneath your celiac trunk is going to be your superior mesenteric artery. Okay? Abdominal aorta, celiac trunk, superior mesenteric artery. Right here, do you see an artery going that way? That's your inferior mesenteric artery. Okay? After that, it branches off to the lower limbs. Okay? So, after the aortic arch, you have the thoracic aorta. After the diaphragm, it becomes the abdominal aorta. First branch, and this is usually always in the right. First branch is going to be celiac trunk. The second one is going to be superior mesenteric. Then you will have, which we showed, anything going to the kidney is renal artery or vein. And then the last branch before you hit the bifurcation of the legs is going to be the inferior mesenteric. Let's move on to the legs. Okay, the first branching of the abdominal aorta is going to be your external iliac. Keep this in mind. The veins have a common iliac. Arteries do not. They go straight into the external iliac. Okay? The external iliac out here turns into the femoral artery. So all the way down here, this is all femoral artery. So if you have an artery and it's pinned way over here somewhere, we're pinning for the femoral. If it's closer to the bifurcation, we are pinning for the external iliac. Okay? One last artery right here. You have, do you see this internal branching? Those are the internal iliacs. The right internal iliac and the left internal iliac. Okay? So, arteries have the external iliac, the femoral, and two internal iliacs. There's also a pretty nice little internal iliac that should be there, but it's not. So it branches off first, and then it divides into two. You can see the two divides, but you can't really see the pretty branching off right here. Okay, these are all the lower part of the arteries. Remember I said this exam has a lot of information? This is what I meant. Okay, let's switch this. First of all, let me point something out to you. Do you guys see the remnants of this sac around the heart? This is the pericardial sac. So we can pin the pericardial sac in both the cat and the heart and the cow heart, and you would need to know both. Okay? So, pericardial sac, remember that. Okay, let's look at the arteries. Okay. This hasn't been cleaned very properly, but you can still see it. Do you see that thick arch coming off? That is the aortic arch, right? Straight off of the aortic arch is going to be your brachiocephalic trunk. So this, right here. The brachiocephalic trunk branches off into the right subclavian, and on the other side, it branches off into the common carotid. Okay? So, let's follow this. Aortic arch, brachiocephalic trunk. Where is my right subclavian? Okay, so this hasn't been cleaned properly, but you can see it branching off right there. Do you see that? That is the right subclavian artery, okay? See, you can follow it over here. That's the right subclavian artery. Now, obvious question. How do you differentiate between the subclavian, the axillary, and the brachial? They all look like they're going in the same arch, right? So, way to distinguish it is if the artery is pinned on inside the rib cage, it's going to be a subclavian, okay? If it's pinned, so this muscle is actually going to be cut open. If it's pinned between the muscle, the rib cage, and this muscle, it's going to be the axillary artery or vein. If it's pinned way out over here, it's going to be the brachial. That's how you distinguish between the three. If it's inside the rib cage, subclavian, in between the rib cage and the muscle, axillary, way out over here, brachial. Okay? Same goes for the veins. Okay. So you can't see the, can you see the brachial over here? Yep, this one is very good. Okay, so for this one, you can see the common carotids going up to the head, and you can see the subclavian cut off right here, and the subclavian, the left subclavian artery generates straight from the aortic arch. That's why this is a little bit weird. So right off the aortic arch, you'll have the brachiocephalic trunk and the left subclavian. So if you follow the left subclavian, up to here, it's the left subclavian. If it crosses over, that's the axillary artery now. And if it crosses over even more, that is the brachial artery now. Same for the veins. One thing about the veins is that it has two brachiocephalic veins, okay? One for each side. So you have the superior vena cava, brachiocephalic, transverse, external jugular, right here, which is going to the head, transverse scapular going into the shoulder. So I think this one had a very good one, yes. So going to the head, that's the external jugular, going to the shoulder, transverse scapular, okay? And subclavian brachial and subclavian axillary and brachial just as the arteries, okay? Questions? It's a lot, I know. I encourage you to take pictures. Also, use your books. Your books have very good pictures of these cats and where all the arteries and veins are. Use PAL for this. I would strongly recommend it. Now, let's find a cow.